Australia has long been romanticized as a dream escape. Think golden beaches stretching for miles, untouched outback landscapes, lush rainforests teeming with life, and tranquil towns nestled in remote corners of the continent. It's the kind of destination that promises not just a holiday, but a complete reset from the chaos of modern life. Social media only amplified the allure, turning quiet corners of the country into viral hotspots. But behind the filters and the travel influencers lies a much harsher reality. The very places that once thrived on their peace, natural beauty, and sense of community are now being overwhelmed. Mass tourism, once welcomed as a lifeline for small economies, has become a burden. Housing costs are soaring, ecosystems are fraying, and locals are being priced out or pushed aside. This is the story of how Australia's most beautiful towns are quietly breaking under the weight of the attention they never asked for. The double-edged sword of tourism. Tourism is often hailed as a clean industry. No smokestacks, no oil rigs, just happy visitors spending money. For decades, Australian policymakers pushed this narrative hard, especially in regional areas where traditional industries like mining, agriculture, or manufacturing were declining. In 2019, tourism contributed over $60 billion to Australia's GDP and supported more than 660,000 jobs. It was seen not just as an economic pillar, but as a cultural asset, a way to showcase Australia to the world. But like any extractive industry, unmanaged tourism comes with a price. Unlike coal or iron ore, it's not the land being dug up. It's the character, the housing supply, the peace, and the very environment that draws people in the first place. Let's break it down. 1. Byron Bay. Perhaps no place embodies the crisis more than Byron Bay. What was once a sleepy surf town known for alternative culture, local markets, and low-key charm has now become a playground for the ultra-rich and an Instagram battleground. Over the past decade, Byron's property prices have skyrocketed. Between 2020 and 2022, median house prices in Byron surged by over 60%, reaching more than $2 million, surpassing even parts of Sydney. Local workers, teachers, nurses, and hospitality staff have been pushed out, unable to afford the rent, let alone buy property. The short-term rental boom, driven by platforms like Airbnb, has gutted the long-term rental market. By early 2023, 1 in 5 properties in Byron was a holiday rental. This has turned community streets into transient zones. Neighbors are now weekenders. Local cafes struggle to find staff who can afford to live nearby. And the tourists just keep coming. Over 2.2 million domestic visitors a year to a town of barely 10,000 residents. The sewage system, overloaded. Roads, gridlocked. Emergency services, stretched to breaking. What used to be a local beach has become a photo shoot set. 2. Tasmania's East Coast. Head south to Tasmania, and you'll find similar pain in postcard-pretty places like Coles Bay, Binalong Bay, and the Freycinet Peninsula. The natural beauty here is jaw-dropping, granite mountains plunging into turquoise seas, but it's also dangerously fragile. Freycinet National Park now receives more than 300,000 visitors a year. That may not sound like much, but it's more than 100 visitors for every local resident in nearby Coles Bay. Trails have eroded. Wildlife is stressed. Wastewater treatment systems built for a tiny population can't keep up. Local councils warn of tourism fatigue, a phrase that's become increasingly common across Australia. Residents love their towns, but many now dread summer. The peace is gone. Parking is impossible. Prices have surged. And the irony, most tourists don't stay long enough to support local businesses meaningfully. They bring their own snacks, book Airbnbs owned by investors from Sydney, and move on. 3. The Great Ocean Road. Once a scenic drive through windswept cliffs and sleepy fishing villages, the Great Ocean Road has become a bottleneck of buses, caravans, and hire cars. The 12 Apostles, one of Australia's most photographed landmarks, attracts millions of visitors annually. In 2019, Parks Victoria recorded over 2.1 million visitors to the site, double the number a decade earlier. But the surrounding towns, Port Campbell, Apollo Bay, Lorne, weren't built for this kind of traffic. Narrow roads, limited parking, and minimal public infrastructure mean that during peak seasons these towns can feel more like parking lots than holiday retreats. Port Campbell's local population is just over 500, but they receive nearly 500,000 visitors a year. Locals have reported incidents where ambulances couldn't reach patients because tourist buses had blocked the main access roads. Tourism once promised to preserve these towns. Now, it's threatening to destroy them, not with malice, but with sheer volume. 4. Uluru. In the heart of the continent lies Uluru, a sacred site for the Anangu people and one of Australia's most iconic landmarks. For decades, tourists treated it as a rock to be climbed, photographed, and conquered. Despite repeated requests from the traditional owners, climbing Uluru remained a popular activity until October 2019, when it was officially banned. The ban sparked fierce debate. Tourism operators feared revenue loss, while indigenous voices demanded respect. The transition hasn't been smooth. Some tourists still try to climb illegally, others disregard cultural boundaries. And while the number of visitors has dropped slightly, the park still receives around 250,000 visitors a year. The broader issue isn't just the climb, it's the attitude. When tourism overrides indigenous rights, it becomes more than just a nuisance. It becomes a symbol of cultural erasure in pursuit of entertainment. 5. Magnetic Island. Off the coast of Townsville, Magnetic Island is marketed as a tropical getaway with reefs, koalas, and hiking trails. But for the people who live there year-round, tourism has turned into a kind of seasonal invasion. During peak times, the island swells with over 5,000 tourists, more than double its permanent population. Ferries become overcrowded, water supplies are strained, and prices for everything from groceries to rent go through the roof. Environmental pressures are acute. Coral reefs around the island have suffered from both warming waters and physical damage caused by inexperienced snorkelers and boat anchors. Koala habitats are threatened by infrastructure expansion. And again, the short-term rental market is hollowing out communities. Local teachers have had to move to the mainland because they can't afford to live on the island they teach on. 6. Noosa. On paper, Noosa has it all: world-class beaches, gourmet restaurants, boutique shopping. It's become a symbol of lifestyle tourism in Queensland, but underneath the surface, there's growing tension. Noosa Shire Council has had to cap the number of Airbnbs and short-stay rentals after residents raised concerns about noise, crowding, and housing availability. A 2022 report showed that nearly 20% of Noosa's housing stock was now unavailable to long-term renters. Rental prices rose by over 35% in just 2 years. Tourism dollars flow in, but so does inequality. Service workers commute from hours away. Young families leave because there's nowhere affordable to live. And the streets, once quiet, walkable, and neighborly, are now filled with hired e-scooters, day trippers, and luxury SUVs. Noosa still looks like paradise, but for many locals, it no longer feels like home. Broader impacts, from culture to climate. The impact of mass tourism isn't just local, it's systemic, and its ripple effects are felt far beyond the towns it touches. Every plane ride, every hire car, every cruise ship contributes to Australia's growing carbon footprint. Tourism may seem like a clean industry, but it fuels emissions, pressures fragile ecosystems, and accelerates the very climate crisis threatening the country's natural wonders. It's a cruel paradox. The more the world falls in love with Australia's beauty, the faster that beauty is being erased. Nowhere is this clearer than in the Great Barrier Reef. Rising sea temperatures caused by global emissions have triggered widespread coral bleaching events, devastating biodiversity and marine life. Tour operators, once thriving on the reef's splendor, now struggle as parts of it turn pale and lifeless. Meanwhile, governments are caught in an impossible bind, trying to protect natural assets while also depending on them for tourist dollars. But the erosion isn't just environmental, it's cultural. Towns remodel themselves to suit outside tastes. Local traditions give way to trends, where once you'd find a bakery serving lamingtons and meat pies, now it's all oat lattes and smoothie bowls. The soul of a place is traded for Instagram appeal. In the rush to be liked, places forget how to be themselves. Who really benefits? There's a deeper question behind all of this. Who is tourism really for? At first glance, it's marketed as a win-win. Visitors enjoy beautiful destinations, and local communities benefit economically. But peel back the glossy surface, and the picture looks very different. When international hotel chains buy up prime beachfront land, when short-term rentals like Airbnbs outnumber local residents, and when councils pour funding into tourist infrastructure while schools and hospitals go underfunded, it becomes clear that tourism has shifted. It's no longer about cultural exchange or supporting local life, it's about profit. And those profits rarely stay in town. Many short-stay properties are owned by investors in Sydney, Melbourne, or even overseas. Cruise ships flood small towns with thousands of visitors who spend a few rushed hours, buy little more than a coffee or souvenir, and then leave, taking their wallets with them. Even the jobs created are rarely secure. Most are seasonal, low-paid, and offer little long-term stability. Meanwhile, locals deal with the traffic, the housing shortages, the noise, and the rising prices. The myth of tourism as a golden goose distracts from the harsh truth. For many communities, it's not prosperity that's being delivered. It's disruption, without a share in the reward. Can it be fixed? Some places are fighting back. In Tasmania, some councils are introducing tourism levies to help fund infrastructure upgrades. In Byron, there's growing support for capping short-stay rentals. In Noosa, regulations now limit how often a home can be let out for holidays. Other towns are promoting slow tourism, encouraging longer stays, lower impact, and deeper connections. The idea is simple: fewer visitors, but better visitors. People who spend more time, engage with the local culture, and give back. But these are still the exception, not the rule. Australia lacks a coordinated national strategy on sustainable tourism. Decisions are made patchily by overworked councils, underfunded park authorities, or reactive state governments. Until there's a serious reckoning with the long-term impacts of mass tourism, the pattern will repeat. More places will turn into Byron. More communities will be pushed to the edge. The reckoning ahead. There's no denying that tourism has brought joy, discovery, and much-needed economic lifelines to many Australian towns. It has helped small communities weather downturns, diversify incomes, and gain recognition on a global stage. But somewhere along the way, the balance tipped. What began as a respectful relationship between guest and host has morphed into something more exploitative, an extractive industry where the benefits are unevenly distributed and the costs are shouldered by the people who live there year-round. If Australia wants these towns to not just survive, but thrive, culturally, socially, environmentally, and economically, it must radically rethink what tourism is for. Who does it serve? What does it protect? And at what point does short-term gain begin to erode long-term well-being? The uncomfortable truth is that more tourists are not always the answer. Some towns are already full. Some are at breaking point. Some may need a pause, a reset, not another influx. Because when paradise is reduced to a product, when local life becomes background scenery, and when the soul of a place is sacrificed for foot traffic, it's time to ask whether we've sold too much, too fast, and for too little in return. If you've ever visited one of these towns, ask yourself, did your presence help or harm? And if you're planning your next trip, think beyond the photo ops. Travel isn't just a privilege, it's a responsibility. Let us know in the comments, have you seen a town change because of tourism? What did it lose? And what, if anything, did it gain? Because paradise isn't something we inherit. It's something we protect. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.